If you want to scale your business faster, doing more and working harder is likely not the answer. In this video, I'm going to show you the 7 things I quit doing to build my businesses to 7 and 8 figures. You see, most entrepreneurs think that scaling is about doing more and adding more stuff, more offers, more content, more grind, more hustle. But the true successful entrepreneurs who actually have a life and a successful business understand that it's about subtraction, not addition. My name is Duriel Kim. I'm a New York Times bestselling author, CEO of Healthpreneur, and I've been building 7 and 8 figure businesses online since 2005. And here are the 7 things I quit to scale my businesses. So, bit of context. I started my first business in 2005 online after working as a burnt-out personal trainer and nutritionist for 7 years doing the one-on-one forever. It was exhausting and I had to live a better quality of life. So I started my business online thinking that that was going to be the solution. Well, it took me a little bit of time. I'm going to share with you in just a couple moments one of the most important things I did to get past several years of poverty line income to building financial freedom. But the number one thing that I quit early on was hanging around small-minded people. The vast majority of people in your life don't understand what it is you want to create. And one of the things that I learned very early on, and I still practice to this day, is I never listened to the advice of other people I wouldn't want to trade places with. I would never ask for someone's opinion if they have not already achieved what it is that I want. And the reality is most people don't understand, they don't see your vision. So why bother asking them for their advice, their opinions, or even being in the vernacular? When I was working as a $20 an hour personal trainer, I remember I had this vision for what I wanted to create. And although I was working 12 hours a day many days, I had 1 hour for lunch. And so I locked myself in that 1 hour in an office all by myself for the gym. And I started creating stuff. I don't even know what I was creating. It could have been content, my first program, whatever it was. But I knew I had to start putting time into that instead of gossiping with other people in the gym for no reason at all. And over the years, and this is the singular most important piece of advice I give to my kids, is if you want to live an amazing quality of life, your environment is everything. If you surround yourself with high level, big thinking, positive people, by nature, everything else will figure itself out. Because you're forced to become like that environment. That's just the way we are as social beings. So the one thing that I quit early on and still to this day is stop hanging around small-minded people. And very, very early on in a conversation with someone, I can know where their head is at. And that's why, to be honest, I don't hang around a lot of people. I'm very, very selective of who I spend my time with. And quite honestly, I spend a lot of my time by myself in my own thoughts or listening to positive inputs because most people, at least in my physical proximity, are not in the same wavelength of what I want to create in life. The second thing I quit was living in the past. I've done a lot of things in 45 years that most people will never do in a lifetime. I graduated from one of the top universities in the world, summa cum laude. I played professional soccer. I built some very successful businesses. I have raised 4 amazing kids. I spent a lot of time with them. I've done a lot of really cool things. I've traveled a ton. I've built my dream house, all sorts of cool stuff. I don't care about stuff I've done in the past. Being on Dr. Oz, #2 New York Times bestselling book, blah, 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 and on and on and on. It doesn't matter. Nobody cares. Nobody cares. And again, when I'm talking with someone, and I'm sure you have friends in your life or people in your life who are like, hey, remember the good old days when we were in high school? I'm like, dude, we're finished. If that's the conversation, good old days, the good old days are now. What you did in high school, if that's your highlight, it's over. If you're hanging around people whose highlight reel was 20 years ago, you're hanging around the wrong people. So this goes into kind of what I just talked about, hanging around small-minded people. What you did in high school, what you did in university, what you did last year, last week, yesterday is irrelevant. Yes, you can express gratitude and acknowledge it, but you cannot expect that to entitle you to anything moving forward. Because quite honestly, every single day we wake up, we have to earn our keep. And I see a lot of people in this world who think, well, listen, I'm a doctor, I spent all this time in school, or I did this cool thing, therefore people should fall into my lap. No one owes you anything. The world doesn't owe you anything. Life doesn't owe you anything. You reap what you sow. If you think of a farmer, he plants seeds, and over a couple months, those seeds turn into harvests in that season. But it doesn't mean that he's done for life. If you think he's going to wake up the next year and be like, well, I planted seeds last year, I'm good, they're going to grow again. No, they're not. Every single season, every single month, whatever that farmer's cycle is like, he or she is always having to plant new seeds because every single day we have to earn our keep. And I think there's a really big epidemic in our world right now, which is this sense of entitlement and expecting a lot for little. I'm not saying you have to work your ass off, okay? Like part of this, obviously, video is about subtraction, not addition. But the mindset of thinking anyone owes you anything is a very insidious and not helpful mindset to have. So no matter what you've done in the past, amazing. Use those as reference points to build your confidence, to help you understand that you can do remarkable things in the future. But personally for me, I want to be around people, including myself, who believes that their future is bigger than their past. Third thing that I quit is doing everything myself. You cannot build $1 million plus business doing $10, $20 an hour tasks. So editing your videos, doing things in Canva, little things like that. And listen, like the challenge of having built a business from the ground up back in 2005, where you had to learn Dreamweaver and HTML and everything, is that I can do everything. I can build out funnel pages. I can build out nice looking landing pages. I can build out funnels and do a lot of the tech. And I can find myself creeping back into that stuff in a pinch because I'm like, well, I can just get it done faster, as opposed to making sure other people on our team do it. But the thing is, the more you get sucked back into those things, the slower your growth is going to be. So when you recognize that you, as the founder or the owner of your business, need to ideally focus the majority of your time in your zone of genius, and then you start to recognize, well, how do I build infrastructure and people around me to support that capability? So as an example, in my business, the only real thing that I need to be doing is sharing the message. Right? Cast the vision, share the message, lead the team. That's it. But when you're starting out, you do everything. You have to. Like there's no one else. So you have to learn everything. It doesn't mean you're going to do everything forever. But there comes a point, depending on your business model, where you have to understand what are the things in my business that I absolutely have to do. As an example, in a coaching business where you're selling a higher ticket solution, the most important thing you can do until you're at least $1 million in revenue is sell. Right? Because if you're selling something for $5,000 to $10,000 as an example, what else are you doing in your business that is going to bring in more revenue per hour than that? You talk to 3 people, you enroll 1 person at $5,000, your effective hourly rate's $1,300. Probably a little bit more, sorry. What else in the business are you doing that's more important than that? But a lot of people, they don't understand the order and the sequence of getting things off their plates. And so what happens is they start offloading their marketing and their sales while they end up spending their time doing stupid little things in Canva. And it's like, no, that's not how that works. It's easier to do that, which is why it feels good in the moment. But if it's easier, it usually means that it's slower. Now, not all the time, because you do want to build a business where it does feel like you're in flow, you're at ease. Doing this for me is super easy. I love doing video. I love sharing content. But it's also a long-term play, right? And this is the one thing I want to do more than anything else, in addition to supporting my team and helping my clients. The difference is when I started this business, I didn't start by shooting videos all day. I actually didn't have a YouTube channel for the first 3 years of this business. By contrast, my first business back in 2005, I was shooting videos from day one. It took me 7 years to hit my first $1 million because I didn't understand what was the most important thing to do. So I was busy doing things that just were busy. When I started Healthpreneur 13 years after my first business started, right, and I sold that company, I now understood, here's what I need to do to get things going. And because I had that focus and that priority and that experience, if you will, of making tons of mistakes, I went from 0 to $1 million in 7 weeks. 7 years, 7 weeks. All because I understood what was the most important thing for me to do. So when you understand that you can't do everything yourself, you have to be able to, at any stage of your business growth, you have to be able to identify in where I'm at, based on the resources and team that I have, or lack thereof, what is the most important thing for me to be doing? And if you're a solo operation right now and you're looking to get clients, the most important thing you have to do is get clients and make money, period. That's it. There will come a point where that's not all you're going to do, but when you don't have revenue, nothing else matters. Stop messing around with your logo and your website. No one gives a shit. No one's seeing it. No one knows you exist. Okay? It doesn't matter how good you are if no one knows who you are. The most important thing you need to do until you're at least $1 million in revenue, and probably more, is you have to sell. Market, sell, and make sure you have product market fit. That's it. Everything else you're doing is slowing you down, is a complete waste of time. And I'm sharing this with all the love possible because I want you to win and I want you to succeed. And unfortunately, 99% of people out there who are building businesses are doing things that are completely useless. And that's why they struggle. And that's why percentage-wise, 95% of small businesses don't last beyond a handful of years. So you have to be able to understand at any given moment in time, what is the most important thing for me to do today, this week, this month, this quarter, this year, based on the stage of business I'm at. So quitting doing everything yourself takes time, but in that process, the goal is to continually fire yourself from things that are lower value to things that are higher value. The fourth thing that I quit was trying to help everyone. One thing that I've realized is that very often the people who need your help the most often want it the least. And as someone who's built businesses in the health space for 20 years, this was a very hard lesson that took me a long time to learn. There's so many people who are suffering. There's so many people who need help. There's so many people who are on the verge of literally like leaving this planet. Yet they're the very same people who have the worst mindset and the biggest excuses about why they can't change. And so it took me a very long time to come to terms with the fact that I'm not going to help these people. If they're not going to meet me where I'm at, fuck them, right? All the best, but I can only work with people who get it, and I'm only going to preach to the choir. That took me a long time. And this is coming from someone who fundamentally cares about helping people. We helped 500,000 people to better health in my previous business. And our goal is to transform the lives of 1 billion people by the time I leave this planet. But I also understand how humans operate. And the reality is, like, people talk a big game. Very few people play the game. And so in your business, regardless of who you're helping, you will undoubtedly come to this, is don't bother trying to convince people that working with you is good for them. They need to tell you this. They need to convince themselves. They need to sell you on this. And if they can't get there, then they're just not the right client or customer for you and your business. And that's fine. So part of your business journey is going to be continually about refining who your perfect client is and constantly firing the lower versions of that individual as you get more and more clarity, which comes from working with more and more people. So what happens over time is your business gets better because you get more clarity around who your perfect client is. And you start seeing nuances and patterns and tendencies of things you like. You focus more of your messaging on that to attract more of those people. And you see stuff you don't like, and you use your messaging to repel those types of people, right? So it really is about quitting, making a decision to not serve people who are not your perfect clients, because nothing is a bigger waste of time and energy than trying to work with people who don't want your help. Hey, we'll get back to the video in just a moment, but if you're enjoying this content, this is just the tip of the iceberg. And I've got videos coming your way every single week until I die, and I don't plan on dying anytime soon. And what that means for you is that you'll be getting my best insights to help you grow your health business online faster without the grind and without all the guesswork. But the reality is this. I'm not asking for a lot, just a simple little commitment, which is for you to subscribe to the channel right now. And that way you can get notified every single time we're dropping a new video to help you grow faster. So all you have to do right now is hit that subscribe button below. It will help me sleep a lot better at night. But more importantly for you, it'll help you build your dream a lot faster. So go ahead, subscribe, and we'll get back to the show. Number 5, the 5th thing that I quit is relying solely on organic. Posting, social media, creating content. Now, huge caveat. I think in the long term, organic content is by far the best way to build trust in a brand. For sure, no doubt about it. The problem is it takes forever. My first business, as I mentioned, took me 7 years to make my first $1 million because 100% of that was organic content. YouTube, blogging, when that was a thing. And it's a very, very slow grind, okay? When I started Healthpreneur, we did the complete opposite. Went 0 to $1 million in 7 weeks because we used paid traffic. I learned how to turn advertising into profit. Invest 1, make 2, 3, 5, or 10 in return. It's literally like winning the lottery. So for the first 3 years of Healthpreneur, I quit all content. I did nothing. No YouTube, no podcast. I didn't even have social media. We had our perfect client pipeline, which is our famous 4-step acquisition model from paid ads into paying clients. And that's all we did for 3 years. That's it. And that's exactly what we help install into our clients' businesses to help them grow 10 times faster than anything else they're going to do. Now, once we're at that point of multiple 7 figures, we have a bigger team, I have a bit more time on my hands, etc. We start looking at, okay, where do we want this to go? And now obviously, like a lot of my time is actually spent creating content because I understand the value of this. But the thing is, I quit relying on it solely as a starting point because it just takes forever. So if you're in a position where you have to earn money tomorrow or this week or this month, listen, organic is a great back burner play, but it's not going to get you traction very early on. The only caveat to that, the only exception to that is if you're willing to pump out so much content and connect with so many people on social media just by sheer will and volume and quantity that you can somewhat break that barrier and get there a little bit faster. But it's like you're manually advertising. It's just a tremendous amount of work and a huge amount of volume. So please understand that I'm not saying organic content is bad. It's very important for building trust, adding value, becoming a preeminent thought leader in your space, but it just takes forever to get results from that. And I believe that you want to build a system that can work largely on your behalf to bring clients and revenue in like clockwork. So you have some stability of income and revenue. And then once you have a bit more capacity and space, you can really start building out the organic side if you're further along in business. But if you're just starting out and you have no experience and no one's going to pay you money, listen, you got to earn your stripes. You got to eat some shit, as they say, for a bit, and you got to put in the work. You have to make up in time and effort what you lack in experience and social proof. There's nothing you can do, there's no and it's or buts. Again, people don't owe you anything. Every single day you have to earn your keep. I've been at this for 20 years and every single day I still have to earn my keep. Okay, nothing's given to you. So relying on organic, I quit very early on with this business about 7 or 8 years ago, but as we gained a lot of traction, it's almost flipped. Like we still generate the vast majority of our revenue from paid traffic, but long-term, 10, 15, 20 years from now, that's going to be flipped again. As you become a preeminent brand, which is going to come not from necessarily advertising, but from a proliferation of content and thought leadership, all of a sudden that's when you start amassing a big following, but it just takes a very, very long time. The 6th thing that I quit en route to building a successful business was undercharging. As I mentioned earlier, I worked as a personal trainer at a gym for most of that time. And after the gym took its cut, I was making $20 an hour and I was working a lot. So I lived in one of the most expensive cities in North America, which is Toronto, and you're not getting very far on $20 an hour. I might as well have worked at McDonald's. When I came online, I had that same mentality, I'm not going to charge a lot and I'll just put out some stuff for a couple bucks. And that's also why it took me a long time to hit the revenue levels that I wanted to hit. When I started Healthpreneur, the first version of our flagship coaching program, the Health Business Accelerator, was only a few grand. And that's changed dramatically over the past 7 years. So what I've realized is that the less people pay, the less they pay attention. I also realized that I'm in the business of helping people fundamentally transform their business and their lives. I can't get there by offering somebody a cheap solution. So therefore, if some people are not able to afford working with me or our team at that level, then by all means, just enjoy the free content, because I'm not okay selling a cheaper course that's going to give you a piece of the solution. And I just see what that trickles into, right? I just feel like, you get something for a couple bucks, then an upsell flow, and then maybe eventually down the road, they'll feel confident working with you. I've still not seen that to be the case. And we continue to test our assumptions even to this day. And it's very, very interesting. So undercharging doesn't help you. It doesn't help your clients. Undercharging attracts people who don't truly want to do anything to better their results. And I know this sounds very harsh, and I know that sounds like it may or may not be true, but I've been doing this for a very long time, and I've helped thousands of other health professionals build very successful coaching businesses. And I'm telling you, we see this with them as well, right? When people they come into an enrollment call, discovery call, and they're expecting life-changing results for $100. I'm like, dude, do you understand why you're in this condition in the first place? It's just, you're so delusional with what you're expecting versus what you're willing to pay. And I'm not just talking about the price. A lot of people want the prize. They're not willing to pay the price. Price being just financial, being a part of it, but doing the work, changing who they are, etc. Most people talk a big game. Again, very few people play the game. Undercharging is not something you, gun to the head, have to do. It's a choice you make. If you look at two hotels, Four Seasons Hotel, Motel 6, they're both hotels. They both allow people to stay there and sleep overnight, and have an experience. Four Seasons is 10 to 20 times the price for arguably something that's quote unquote maybe the same, but obviously it's very different. Yeah, they have bed, they have showers, they have running water. Yeah, but the experience and the status is like a day and night difference. But the thing I want you to understand is you get to choose what you charge. No one's telling you you have to charge Motel 6 prices. That's your choice. If you want to charge little to nothing because other people in your surroundings charge little to nothing, you're comparing yourself to losers, to businesses that are suffering, or you are charging based on a limited mindset that is keeping you small. And all the more reason to surround yourself with big thinking people, because if you're around an environment, physical or people that don't think like you do, you will, by nature of proximity, become more like them. Oh, I can't charge more because I live in a small town and no one here has money. Cool. Well, who said you have to work in a small town? You can work online, right? I started my business online in a town of 9,000 people. So what, right? All the more reason to get around environments and people who are thinking bigger, because undercharging is nothing more. It's nothing more than a mindset. You don't believe someone will pay what you want to charge because you're selling out of your own pocket, because you wouldn't pay that. So if you wouldn't buy your solution, don't expect anyone else to. So part of the journey of pricing and charging and money and worth and stuff like that is you got to do the work on yourself. And listen, I shared this as a guy who hated selling, who felt very uncomfortable charging at any level for many, many years. And I had to do the work on myself to understand what I'm offering people is going to transform their life. And they're already spending way more than this on their friggin' phone, on their computer, on their car. And none of this stuff is helping them. On an all-inclusive vacation, we're going to get plastered for 7 days in a row. So I'm not going to feel bad about charging that amount or more for the results I'm going to help them achieve. So I hope you can get to that place as well, because this is not about making it accessible to everyone. And I know we all want to impact people and make their lives better. But the only way that goes is you struggling, trying to help people who fundamentally don't want your help. And therefore your bank account reflects that. And then you're in a position where you can't even afford to run your business or live because you're trying to make what you do accessible to everyone. And those very people don't even want what it is you're offering because anything you charge is too expensive. So undercharging is one of the most important things that I quit, that I'd strongly recommend you consider as well, because it doesn't serve you or your clients. And the seventh thing that I quit to scale my business was thinking my ideas are the best. There are many people who are very associated, their ego and their ideas are one. So if someone brings an idea and that idea doesn't work, they get personally offended and attacked by that. And I've worked with people like this and subsequently let them go, because you can't have a data-driven, logical conversation with them because they're so emotionally invested to their idea. It's like, dude, it's not that you as a person suck. It's that your idea sucked. I'm not saying you're a bad person. And I share this with my team all the time. I'm like, guys, anytime our existing team or new hires, I said, I have no personal attachment to any of the ideas that I come up with. In the moment, I might think it's the best thing since sliced bread, but I have failed so many times in my 20 years that I'm like, listen, who cares? It's learning. I don't get oh my God, this is the thing. This is my self-identity is attached to this. I don't give a shit. If the thing doesn't work, great, learn, move on. So if we come up with a new ad, I shot an ad recently where I was burning money, which, in retrospect may not have been the best thing to start with, but that's okay. I thought it was an amazing hook. I thought this ad was going to crush. And our media buyer was like, dude, that is a solid video. The video itself was good, but the hook at the start was really compelling. And it was a terrible ad. It didn't work at all. So what do? Am I going to cry about it? No. Cool, awesome. What can we learn? Move on. Next. So thinking that my ideas are best is so narcissistically myopic that I've just seen this happen so many times where I've had so many ideas that have been horrible. In my previous business, my first launch was like a 9-month endeavor. And I was like, this is gonna be the best thing, the biggest thing of all time. We made $2,500. It was embarrassing. And I almost called it a day. This is back in 2009. A couple years later, I spent 1,000 hours developing a nutrition academy that I thought everyone needed because it helped me when I went through nutrition school. No one gave a shit. And so like, that's just 2 examples out of hundreds of ideas that I've thought about and deployed and have been utter failures. But it's not that I'm a failure. It's the idea didn't work. And so it's being able to dissociate the behavior, the idea, the execution from you as a person. So, in business, most of the stuff you do is not going to work out. Don't take it personally. The more you take something personally, the more you attack your self-identity to the success of your business. And it's not that. They're not even closely related at all. But it's the ability to detach of like, then you have no emotion to the idea or the launch or the product or the whatever it is. You just like put it out there. Let's see how this goes. Let's give it a test. I think it'll do great, but if it doesn't mean that I'm a failure. It just means that this didn't work. And it's not that that was a failure. It was simply a test. Everything you do in business, for the most part, is a test. You hire someone, it's a test. Is this person going to work out, right? If they do, what do we learn? If they don't, what do we learn? You launch a marketing campaign, you launch an ad, you launch an email, whatever it is. It's a test. It's a hypothesis. You never know how something's going to work out until it works out or it doesn't. What do we learn? Cool. Let's take that learning and let's try this next thing. So I think I've gotten very, very good at this over time. And I'm always challenging my assumptions. I'm always challenging my assumptions because I realize the failure to adapt is one of the most dangerous things that is almost like a shortcut to bankrupting your business. When you look at the biggest businesses, the Fortune 500 businesses from 1965, 88% of them don't exist anymore. And the vast majority of them don't exist because they were gobbled up or they failed to adapt. Think of Blockbuster versus Netflix, right? Netflix, they walk into Blockbuster back in the early days. They're like, hey, can you buy us out for $50 million? Blockbuster laughed them out of the room. Who's laughing now? Like, do you even know what Blockbuster is? Maybe, maybe not. There are countless examples of this. And I'm very, very aware of, like, we do things in a very specific way with our clients, but I'm always testing my assumptions because our clients know that we only practice what we preach. We only give them what we've personally mastered. So we spend a lot of money and time testing things that we actually never show our clients because some of this stuff doesn't work. And recently we had a new idea, a hypothesis to be like, hey, maybe things are changing. Maybe we try this. We spent tens of thousands of dollars on this one idea, but we just kept coming up this, like, there's just one part of this process that just wasn't making sense. And we thought like, hey man, like we're trying to learn and make little pivots and adjustments. And I'm always okay with doing stuff like that because it's like, maybe this is the thing that could unlock the next level. But if it doesn't, what can we learn about this? As an example, like our perfect client pipeline is our bread and butter. It's our main system. There's always nuances. How do we, like, what are we learning? How can we test this assumption? Because I never want to be that dogmatic dinosaur who's not able to adapt. And I don't think that's of service to our clients. So be able to dissociate and detach from thinking my ideas are best has served me extremely well. It's also, I think, for our team, been able to, hopefully for them, work in an environment that doesn't feel like a dictatorship. So those are the 7 things that I quit to scale my business. My first business to multiple 7 figures, sold that. Healthpreneur, multiple 8 figures, and we're scaling this puppy to a very, very big level. We're on route to helping 1 billion people transform their lives. And in some way, shape, or form, you're part of that, right? Maybe you're watching this, you're a health expert, you're looking to impact people and build your business, then amazing. And if you're not a health expert, I'm sure this stuff will, help you nonetheless. So thanks for hanging out with me today. Hope you've enjoyed this. I'd love to know from you, which of the 7 really resonates with you the most? Let me know in the comments below. And if you like this kind of stuff, I'm sure there's some links in the description to help you take the next step. See you in the next video. Alcohol sucks. I recently got off the sauce, quit alcohol for more than 100 days, and today I'm going to share with you why I did that. You see, most people think that, drinking is just a social thing, or it helps me relax or unwind, or, a few drinks really don't matter.